I included this next hand to give you an example of how altering your bet sizing can encourage people to put more money into the pot with reverse implied odds. The villain in this hand is a very solid and aggressive mid-stakes regular on full tilt, playing a 29-20 over a big sample of hands. He opens for pot in middle position, and we have an easy call in the big blind with ace-king 10-4 single suited. This would be an easy 3-bet in position against most opening ranges that aren't super tight. Calling with this hand in position is also an option if a solid player opens and you have a fish in the blinds, because it has a lot of nuttiness and plays fine in a 3 or 4-way pot with position. Also, you could 3-bet this out of the small blind against an aggressive late position opener as well. But in this case, 3-betting doesn't make sense for a few reasons. First, we already know that he's a solid player, and that he plays well in 3-bet pots. So inflating the pot out of position and making it easy for him to play post-flop isn't what you want to do against good players. Second, remember that one of the main reasons for 3-betting is to isolate yourself with an opponent and get the pot heads up. That concept doesn't apply here because we're closing the action and the pot is already heads up. You could make an argument that we'd be 3-betting for value against him, but in my opinion, there's more value in check raising the right boards and keeping the pot manageable against this particular opponent. On the flop, we have top pair, the nut flush draw, and a backdoor straight draw with side cards. AKA, we absolutely crush the flop. So what's the best line to take? We could donk lead, check raise, or check call. Check calling puts us in awkward turn spots when we don't improve, because we've under-repped the strength of our hand, so it's tricky calling down on the turn and river with just a bare pair of kings. Donking is an option, but the only problem is that if we donk, he'll probably fold his air and weak-made hands, which we definitely don't want him to do since our hand is so strong. I like check raising the best. We get value from his air when he c-bets, and it gives us the best chance to build the pot early so we can easily get stacks in on the river. Plus, these are the kind of boards that he's going to be c-betting with a wide range in position, so I'm not that concerned about him checking back very often. Now, as I said, we follow through with a check raise after he c-bets full pot, but the main reason I included this hand was to show you the bet sizing I used. Let's think about what his range could be for c-betting full pot, and then take into consideration what our options are. He raised from middle position, so his pre-flop range should include bigger and more connected cards. He c-bet full pot, which is something he normally doesn't do, and given the board texture and his opening range, means that he's very unlikely to have complete air. Given everything I've said, what's our equity against his range? Well, top set is unlikely because we have a blocker, and also I think it's unlikely that a good player would c-bet full pot on a board like this with top set, because typically they'll bet 2/3 or 3/4 pot to try to get at least one street of value on a pretty safe board to have top set on. What this means is that he has a medium strength hand that he's trying to protect, or he has a medium strength draw that he's trying to end the pot with quickly. If our assumptions are correct, the best line to take is to check raise smaller than pot, because it accomplishes two things. First, it gives us a good price on making him fold his equity in the hand. The second, and more important thing that check raising smaller accomplishes, is that it encourages him to make an incorrect call with a hand that has reverse implied odds against my hand. Additionally, since we know he's aggressive, check raising small may induce him to spaz out and put in the rest of his money with a weaker combo draw than mine, which would obviously be fantastic. I like this line a lot because it allows me to take the initiative back in the hand by giving me the ability to control how the money goes into the pot on later streets. As I said, after we check raise just less than 3x, he makes the call. On the turn, the key to picking the right bet size is to look at the SPR first. In this case, it's 1.5. And pick an amount that allows you to give him a good price to call your river ship, gives him a chance to come over the top of you on a bluff, while also keeping his range as wide as possible. The reason for all of this is that he should be drawing practically dead here almost always, because all of his made hands would have just stuck it in on the flop. In this case, I picked right around 40% of the pot because it sets up a river ship of roughly 2/3 pot, which gives him a pretty good price to make an incorrect call against me. And again, betting small on the turn looks kind of foolish at first because I'm giving him such a good price to draw out on me. But in this case, allowing him to get there isn't much of a concern because he should basically be drawing dead at this point, given what the action has been. The rest of the hand is very standard. He calls our turn bet, as well as our river ship, and we scoop a nice pot when he turns over a smaller flush. So what did we learn from this hand? Well, I'd say our evaluation of his range was spot on. If he had check raised to 120 on the flop, there's a chance he may have folded his dominated draw. Altering my bet sizing to take advantage of his range is what allowed me to force him to make a mistake. Remember that people don't like to fold very much in PLO, so when you make small bets like this, they'll rarely fold their hands that have serious implied odds danger. So be on the lookout for spots where you're fine with getting your stack in, regardless of the flop or turn action, but can bet smaller to keep in dominated draws and force your opponents into making a mistake. And in case you're curious and trying to learn the equities, he had ace 10, 8, 9 double suited with spades and hearts, which means that I had 80% equity on the flop against his hand.